A hug, a peck, making out, fondling, all the way? And just because you are horny, feel chemistry, or think she is attractive, what intention do you have, if any at all? Story 1. I think the farthest I have ever gotten was making out when I was younger. But older me does not care as much for dating for sex. Not that I am not interested, I am about the same as before. If I could actually date, I would be more sincere and focus on the person. If we are going to be intimate, it will happen in due time. Story 2. I am going to take her to Denny's in my convertible 1995 Geo-Tracker for a romantic $6 dinner from the value menu. Then I hope that will win her over enough for some missionary-style intimacy on my futon mattress that is on an IKEA frame in my efficiency apartment. Story 3. The first date is to get to know each person's personality. Even if I feel some chemistry, if I am looking for something long-term, the furthest I would go is a hug goodbye and look forward to a second date if we decide to meet again. Story 4. As far as we get, if it feels right and everyone is in agreement. Can be a challenge because consent needs to be crystal clear. If there is any inebriation, I typically end the evening with a cuddle and wait for the morning if she is still interested. Story 5. Hug, peck, or smooch. I am old school and take things slowly. Every advance of physicality needs to be emotionally and intimately significant and honest. It is about romance, not just desire, passion, or chemistry. It is all of those and something even more meaningful, something truly special. This approach helps identify those who are just looking for a good time but do not really want anything serious. It also keeps the number of sexual partners and the risk of disease low. Story 6. Sometimes men do not express their interest early when they really like someone, completely forgetting that women also appreciate intimacy. We tend to impose some kind of false virtue. If you feel a connection, you feel a connection. On the other hand, some men are guided by genuine values and prefer building a relationship before intimacy. There is nothing wrong with that either. Story 7. It always depends on the vibes. I never go in with any intentions, but certainly not with any limits either. Story 8. A hug every time. Peck kiss if we lock eyes. If we have been texting an unusual amount of time, that could be a makeout session. Story 9. Sometimes I go without sex for about a year, and I am reasonably into her. If she is willing to sleep with me on the first date and she does not seem shady, dirty, or crazy, I will do it. Although it is not true for everyone, women have sex when they want, while men have sex when they can. I know people will say, I know a guy who has a different girl every weekend, and I know a girl who has not had sex in 3 years. Yes, maybe one guy or a couple if you are in college, and 1 or 2 girls who are celibate by choice or too picky considering what they offer. I know about 10 guys who have not had sex in a decade, and 10 girls who have a new partner every weekend, and a few who have a different partner every day of the week. The reality is that most guys are lucky to get 1 or 2 sexual partners a year while single and looking, while most women either have a casual partner, never going without sex, or have a new partner every 2 or 3 months, more or less, while single and looking. Story 10. Never really had a hard and fast rule, just went with the flow every time. Even where there was mutual interest, I have experienced every outcome ranging from a hug goodbye to sex. On that note, I have never subscribed to dogmatic beliefs such as, you must wait a certain number of dates before sex, or, if a man sleeps with you on the first date, all he wants is sex. I slept with my partner on the first date. That was 6 years ago, and we will get married 3 months from now. Story 11. I'm going with the full court press on date 1. On level 2, I'm trying to invade the jungle. Making out, hand jobs, and playing grab ass are all on the table. With the ladies I've connected with in the past, we've always at least made out on date 1. I'm not going to view a woman as less than for getting physical early. I also wouldn't view her as more quality for making me wait. The other qualities outside of sex determine what slot you belong to. Story 12. Most younger men would likely have sex on a first date if they could, but realistically it depends on how far she wants to go. Your best bet is to assume nowhere, as this is mostly the case, and be happily surprised if it goes any further. If you push for anything physical too soon, she will not come back for a second date. Story 13. Personally, at most a hug if things were going well. On the first date, I do not know the person well enough for more. Story 14, whatever she is comfortable with doing. I have ended first dates with everything from hugs to a girl letting me engage in intimate activities. It all depends on how the date goes. Story 15. The farthest I got on a first date was when I was supposed to pick her up for dinner, but then she took me to her bedroom and I ended up exhausted by the time I left the next night. I was 18 and eager at that time, so I did not mind. Story 16. Fastest. Met a girl on Tinder. Met up a week later when she was nearby depositing some cash for her boss. Maybe she works in retail. I went to find her and asked if she wanted to come to my hotel room nearby. She said sure. We went up, had sex. She left and blocked me that night. All up 2 hours. Another fun one was meeting a Tinder girl for coffee in the afternoon. We gelled, and I suggested we get happy hour drinks at a cocktail bar. Of course, it escalated quickly back at my office nearby, and ended up in sex. Maybe 4 hours all up. Story 17. Always try to go for the kiss unless you have no intention of seeing them again. I am also always open to more if the chemistry is there. Do not limit yourself unless you want to. Story 18. Not dating anymore, but 90% of the time we would go all the way if the mood was right. Usually, the relationships that came from dating ended with just kissing, but I also had relationships from hooking up on the first date. If not the first, then the second date was almost always all the way. Story 19. Hug if I kind of like her, peck on the cheek if I really like her, or sex if she clearly wants it and she is attractive. Having sex does not imply hugging or pecking on the cheek. I have never had a serious relationship from first date sex. Story 20. It depends on the date. If the date goes well and she is willing, why not have intimacy? If she is not comfortable with that, we do not have to be intimate. I am willing to court her for a few dates. Story 21. I don't really think about it. It's not important. I don't care. I usually try to slow her down from rushing to bed. If she wants to have sex on the first, second, or even third date, I usually shut her down. This approach is a lot of fun and often drives them to obsession. When they express their sexual frustration and how much they desire intimacy, that's music to my ears. A little teasing and denial is exciting. Most men can build anything but anticipation. Story 22. It would depend. My maximum is probably making out a little and feeling each other up. However, there would have to be a lot of chemistry, and I would have to know her already. I am not interested in making out with a woman who was intimate with a man the day before. Story 23. People who rush into relationships are like diving recklessly into unknown water. As a man seeking marriage, the dating phase should only be a period of getting to know each other. To understand who she is, the kind of family she has, the social circles she belongs to, and so on. She also gets to know me. I do not want us to get involved in problems out of ignorance. If problems arise along the way, it will be because we both agreed to face them together. Story 24. I've gone all the way once, but the woman was making all the advances. It is no surprise that a relationship built solely on sex did not work out well. I personally do not participate in hookup culture and prefer to actually know my partners and see if I like them. That is what the dates I go on are for. Story 25. The farthest I ever go is a kiss on the cheek. My mother told me that is what I should do, and it just kind of stuck. Story 26. Most of the time, it is sex upon the first meeting, but there are times when it is after a few dates. I am just rolling with how things are going, honestly. Story 27. I will sleep with a girl on the first date if that is the vibe I am getting and if she is interested, but I will not date the same girl. Story 28. At least a kiss. I am usually pretty good at sensing vibes about sex going into the date, though. I usually choose women who are likely to want to have sex soon. Story 29. If we do not hook up, it is more than okay, but I will not go on a second date with a girl. My 3 longest relationships have all been with women I slept with on the first night. Story 30. I will touch her arm a few times during the conversation. I will give her a hug at the end. If she wants to take it further, she will need to make the next move or wait for the second date. Story 31. Were I not dating a cute Asian guy, I would say that my answer depends on how comfortable, attracted, and interested we are in one another. Desire is one thing, but I am not fond of hookups or one-night stands. Sex is special to me. A mutual display of vulnerability, sensuality, beauty, respect, and trust. If she and I go all the way on the first date, I am committed until given reason not to be. Such reasons would include her being unstable, abusive, or violent. Story 32. A hug. If she goes further, then I am not going to say no. But yes, I will see it as a red flag, and she would be removed from the relationship material list. Story 33. I always have sex on the first date because she wants it. It has to do with my masculine energy that she senses, and she submits herself willingly. Story 34. I go all the way if she is open to it. Why not? I like sex. It is a good thing if she likes sex too. It is important to me to be sexually compatible. I like it when we can establish early on if we match there as well. 10 dates just to find out a big, important thing does not work out? No. Story 35. Hug at the beginning, maybe some light touches if the situation is appropriate, such as an accidental brush of her arm during a game of mini-golf, and end with a hug. Maybe a kiss on the cheek if she is ecstatic about the date and I want another date with her. Story 36. It depends, but having sex right away is not off the table. It is just quite unlikely that I will feel attracted and trusting enough for it unless I am very drunk. In that case, I could make poor decisions, and the sex may not even be good. Story 37. If you are under 18, then you will learn. If you are over 18, I do not understand the question. You are not deciding anything alone. You are with another person. You should resolve it together. Story 38. A hug and a forehead kiss were typical, usually without any pressure for more. But if the gates are open, it is going down. Story 39. About 2/3 of all my first dates have ended in sex. Usually the kind where you wake up the next morning, have to put the refrigerator back in its place, and look in every room of the house for articles of clothing. Story 40. It depends on the girl and the context. Typically a kiss or a kiss on the cheek. If she doesn't seem open to it, a hug. At that point, I start thinking this isn't going anywhere. If she is giving signals, I will take her to bed. But I will not push the subject if it is clear she wants to take things slow. However, odds are if we are chilling in her apartment or mine, we are going all the way. At least, that has been my experience. Story 41. No intimate activities under the clothes for me. Kissing, hugging, a bit of fondling, but no genital contact. It is what I do to prevent myself from doing something unwise. If we have sexual intercourse after that, it is a choice and not an impulse. Story 42. Usually all the way. Sometimes before a proper date. But that's just how older millennials are, at least in my area and experience. Story 43. If I do not have sex on the first date, I assume she is not interested. If she were interested, she would say yes. Alternatively, she may be a religious person. Either way, there is no second date. Story 44. How far will she let things escalate? That's how far I will go. I am not trying to get into trouble, but if she wants to go all the way, we will go all the way. Story 45. Depends on the vibe. I will settle for a hug if neither of us is feeling it, but I am generally open to anything up to and including sex. For reference, every serious long-term relationship I have had since high school had us pantless by the second date. In my experience, if we are not there quickly, the spark probably just is not there. Story 46. It all depends on the vibe and how it feels. With some dates, I hardly hugged on the first date. With others, I went all the way. If it feels right, it feels right. Story 47. When I was single, anything was possible if I liked her enough. There had been occasions when I did not like her enough. Story 48. Generally, if the date is romantic rather than a hookup, I will not have sex on the first or second date. If I go on the date and realize there is nothing there for a relationship but they are attractive, then I will probably have sex on the first date since I likely will not get another chance. Story 49. It depends on the date and how we are both feeling. Sometimes you just know immediately that there is good physical chemistry. Sometimes you know it is not going to work at all, and you both want to leave after one drink. Story 50. I usually go for a hug. Anything more than that is a major bonus, but I have never dated anyone and gotten even a cheek kiss. Story 51. Depends entirely on our chemistry and vibe and how well the date goes. How well the date goes, how well we get along, and the chemistry between us determine my level of interest in and desire for her. Story 52. I have been with 4 women in my life, all from dating applications. We had sex on the first encounter every time because I am young and interested, and so were they. Story 53. I went all the way one time on the first date, but it was after a divorce. I would not recommend it though. Story 54. I am interested if they let me as soon as they let me. No dates if possible. If I am not super direct about it, I can feel them out without turning them off before we meet. 2 dates is the absolute maximum I am willing to wait before they never hear from me again. Story 55. When I was dating, I would go all the way if she was interested, but I would also tell her it was only a one-time thing and she should lose my number afterward. Story 56. The furthest I have ever gone is a hug, and I think the most comfortable I would be with is maybe a peck on the cheek or lips. I have not had much luck with relationships or dates, though. Story 57. As far as she allows, I will happily have sex before even going on the date if she wishes. Story 58. It's very context dependent. I will happily go or not go wherever the chemistry takes me or does not take me. I have had sex on first dates, and I have not had sex on first dates. Either is fine because whatever happens feels like what is supposed to happen. Story 59. I am open to anything and have no agenda. Having sex on the first date would be great if there is mutual desire. If it goes another way, I am fine with that. Story 60. The furthest I would go on a first date is a hug and a kiss on the cheek. Nothing more than that. I would probably be more comfortable with only a hug or handshake. Story 61. I haven't gone on many dates and I don't really have any skills in dating. I just hope I am liked for who I am, which is why I am unsuccessful romantically. On a first date, I just want to talk and get to know the person, try to have a laugh, and see if we are compatible to enjoy spending an evening together, maybe going for a walk or something similar. Story 62. I am a sensitive person, so if she is a sensitive person, I will reciprocate. However, I know I am not attractive enough to lead with that kind of behavior. Story 63. You have to feel the vibes. You will know for sure if she or he wants to take it further. If the date is nice and the conversation is flowing, you will notice the signs. Story 64. I have had sex on about 1/3 of all my first dates. I am pretty deliberate and do not bother with a first date unless I am fairly sure there is potential, as I have better things to do with my time. All of those first date encounters led to relationships. As for the rest, if all I am giving you is a hug or a wave, that is a brush off. Do not touch me. Who does pecks? We are all adults. Do not give me a kiss without tongue. Story 65. I have some rules. 1. If I am attracted but do not see it as a relationship, just a fun date, it will be at a bar and I would go all the way. If I am attracted and see it going somewhere, it will be a coffee date ending with a kiss. No sex until the relationship is established. I want to make sure commitment is involved and that the relationship is not solely about sex. Story 66. I am 31 years old and actively go on dates now. It really depends on the girl, but usually there is a makeout session at the end. One of the girls even said, "You should kiss me again," right before we parted for the day. Unfortunately, she has a drug use problem with cocaine, but on last night's date, she gave me a side hug. So there is that. If we don't kiss, I will text her that I don't think we should see each other again. I am definitely on a long streak of being the one canceling the dates or ending relationships. Honestly, if we were to hook up, it would be a red flag on how easy it was. I recently dated a girl for a few months, and we had our first sexual encounter on the 3rd date. Story 67. In my single days, I would go out trying to have fun. Sometimes that meant wild intimacy. Sometimes it meant a nice conversation over dinner. I always planned my first dates to go somewhere or do something I would be okay doing alone anyway. Then I would go out and be happy with wherever things went. I had no problem taking someone back to my place or going back to theirs. But I was also perfectly okay if nothing happened. I did not even kiss my now fiancé on our first date. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.